Every corner of history, science, and human thought hides something fascinating, small details that change how we see the world. I'm Useless Guy, your dedicated fact finder, here to uncover those quiet yet incredible facts that stick with you long after you hear them. The Doppler effect explains why a passing ambulance's siren suddenly drops in pitch as it moves away. It's all about how sound waves bunch up or spread out depending on motion. When the source comes closer, waves compress and sound higher. When it leaves, they stretch and sound lower. The same principle helps astronomers detect stars and galaxies moving across space. The bandwagon effect is what happens when people follow a crowd just because everyone else seems to. Imagine suddenly liking a song you hated yesterday, right after it went viral. Psychologists use this term to explain how opinions and behaviors spread socially, from fashion trends to political movements, even when personal beliefs take a back seat. An axion is a tiny particle that physicists haven't yet seen but really hope exists. It was proposed in 1977 to fix a strange imbalance in the equations describing the strong nuclear force. If it's real, it could also explain dark matter, that invisible stuff making up most of the universe. In short, the axion might solve two cosmic mysteries at once. The false consensus effect is our brain's sneaky way of assuming everyone else thinks like us. For example, if you love pineapple on pizza, you might believe most people secretly agree, even when they clearly don't. Psychologists say this bias helps us feel more normal, but it also blinds us to how different others truly are. The Stroop effect is that mental slowdown you feel when the word blue is written in red ink. Your brain tries to read and recognize color at the same time, and those two tasks interfere. This simple test, created in the 1930s, is still used in psychology labs today to study attention, reaction time, and cognitive control. The oldest known surgical text, the Edwin Smith Papyrus, comes from ancient Egypt around 1600 BCE. It's a fascinating manual describing 48 trauma cases, from broken bones to head injuries, all written with calm, logical reasoning instead of magic spells. For its time, that made it astonishingly scientific, especially when most healing relied on superstition. Blombos Cave sits quietly along South Africa's southern coast, about 300 kilometers east of Cape Town, but it holds astonishing secrets. Archaeologists have found ochre engravings, shell beads, and bone tools dating back 75,000 years. It's one of the earliest places showing humans making art, proof that creativity runs deep in our species. A sky burial in Tibet looks both shocking and spiritual to outsiders. Instead of burying or burning the dead, Tibetans place the body atop a mountain for vultures to consume. In their view, the body is just a vessel, and feeding it back to nature is an act of compassion. It's recycling, but on a sacred cosmic scale. Belgrade, the capital of Serbia, is one of Europe's oldest continually inhabited cities. Sitting where the Sava and Danube rivers meet, it's seen empires rise and fall, from Romans to Ottomans. Even its name means White City. Today you can still find fortresses, cobbled streets, and layers of history stacked like geological time. The Spolia Opima were ancient Rome's highest military honor, but incredibly rare. To earn it, a Roman general had to personally kill an enemy commander in single combat and take his armor. It happened only 3 times in history, which makes it the ancient equivalent of winning the Olympics, a duel, and the presidency all at once. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch ran experiments that revealed just how easily people conform. Participants had to match line lengths on a card, but when others deliberately gave wrong answers, many followed along anyway. It showed that social pressure can override logic. Our need to fit in is stronger than we like to admit. A macho, short for massive astrophysical compact halo object, sounds like a cosmic superhero, but it's actually a possible explanation for dark matter. These could be black holes, neutron stars, or other dense remnants lurking in galaxy halos. Astronomers once hoped MACHOS filled the universe's missing mass, though evidence now suggests otherwise. Ideasthesia is a mind-bending concept where ideas trigger sensory experiences. For instance, someone might feel the shape of a number or taste a concept. It's not the same as synesthesia, where senses mix. Here, meaning itself sparks perception. Researchers believe it hints at how deeply language and sensation intertwine in the brain. The fool's mate in chess is brutal and over in 2 moves. It happens when one player opens recklessly, leaving their king exposed. The opponent simply lines up the queen and bishop for a lightning checkmate. It's rare among real players, but a favorite example for teachers explaining why defense matters more than flashy openings. Temperature-dependent sex determination sounds like science fiction, but it's real biology for many reptiles. In species like turtles or crocodiles, whether an egg becomes male or female depends on how warm it was during incubation. Just a few degrees difference can flip the outcome, as if the weather itself decides who hatches next. The Lewis-Mogridge position is an oddly frustrating observation in urban planning. Building more roads doesn't fix traffic. It invites more of it. As new lanes appear, more drivers take to the streets until congestion returns. It's like loosening your belt to solve overeating, comfortable for a moment, but the problem soon fills the space again. Quantum field theory is physics's big unifying script for how particles behave. Instead of treating particles as little dots, it sees them as ripples in invisible fields filling the universe. Every interaction, from light to gravity, plays out as vibrations in these fields. It's the math behind everything, from lasers to black holes. The KPG extinction event around 66 million years ago wiped out nearly 3/4 of life on Earth. Scientists link it to a massive asteroid impact near today's Yucatan Peninsula, which left the Chicxulub crater. The fallout darkened skies and cooled the planet. When it cleared, dinosaurs were gone, paving the way for mammals to rise. The Sumerian language is humanity's first known written tongue. It appeared in Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago, carved into clay tablets with wedge-shaped symbols called cuneiform. Strangely, it's a language isolate, meaning it has no known relatives. That makes it a linguistic orphan, ancient, brilliant, and entirely alone in history. A sonnenrad, or sunwheel, is an ancient circular symbol resembling a swastika found in several Indo-European cultures. It originally represented cycles of the sun or a time. Sadly, in modern times, extremist groups have co-opted it as a hate symbol, twisting its ancient meaning much like they did with the traditional swastika. Politeness theory explores how people carefully protect each other's social face. Every conversation is a balancing act, saying enough to be honest, but not so much that someone feels embarrassed. For example, when we soften criticism with phrases like maybe consider, we're managing politeness. It's essentially the science of not stepping on toes. The Roman legal principle of res judicata might sound fancy, but it's basically the rule that says you can't try the same case twice. Once a court has made a final decision between two parties, that's it. No do-overs. It's one of the oldest ideas in law, designed to keep verdicts final and prevent endless cycles of litigation. The Saimaa ringed seal is a remarkable survivor, and one of Earth's rarest. Found only in Finland's Lake Saimaa, this seal has been cut off from the sea since the last ice age. Over time, it adapted to freshwater life, becoming its own subspecies. Today, fewer than 400 remain, making it a fragile reminder of ancient climates. Knossos, on the island of Crete, is often called Europe's oldest city. It flourished during the Bronze Age as the heart of the Minoan civilization, around 2000 BCE. The site features sprawling palaces, intricate frescoes, and even what might be the world's first plumbing system. Legend links it to King Minos and the mythical labyrinth. The Amistad case of 1841 began with a mutiny on a Spanish slave ship. African captives seized control, but were later captured off the U.S. coast. Their fate reached the Supreme Court, where, in a landmark decision, the justices ruled in their favor, declaring them free men who had been illegally enslaved. The narrative paradigm is a theory that says humans are born storytellers. Instead of judging messages by logic alone, we're more persuaded by a story that feels true. That's why myths, movies, and even political speeches stick. They use structure, emotion, and character. In communication, a good story can outshine even a perfect argument. The Debye-Huckel equation sounds intimidating, but it's chemistry's way of handling reality. In dilute solutions, ions don't behave ideally. Their electric fields mess with each other. This equation, developed in the 1920s, corrects for that, letting scientists calculate how active an ion really is. Its precision hiding behind math. Twyman's law is the scientific equivalent of too good to be true. It says any data that looks surprising or unusually interesting is probably wrong. Statisticians treat it as a friendly warning. Double-check the numbers before celebrating. In other words, if your graph suddenly looks amazing, chances are your spreadsheet doesn't agree. A cold trap is a clever little gadget used in vacuum systems. It cools vapors so intensely that they condense into liquid or solid form, trapping unwanted gases before they reach sensitive equipment. Think of it as a molecular bouncer, stopping contaminants at the door so experiments or instruments stay pristine. The Zeeman effect happens when light interacts with a magnetic field and splits into several spectral lines. Discovered by Peter Zeeman in 1896, it showed that magnetism could actually change atomic energy levels. This tiny shift gave physicists a powerful new tool to study the structure of atoms and the behavior of stars. Franchi Cave in Greece holds an unbroken record of human life spanning tens of thousands of years. From Paleolithic hunters to early farmers, people continuously lived there until around 3000 BCE. Archaeologists have uncovered tools, shells, and even ancient burials, making it one of the most complete time capsules in Europe. Valletta, the capital of Malta, was built like a fortress by the Knights of St. John in the 1500s. Perched on a rocky peninsula, its massive stone walls and narrow streets were designed for defense and beauty. Today, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where Baroque architecture meets a long legacy of resilience. The Tetris effect is when a game or activity takes over your brain. After hours of stacking falling blocks, you might start seeing shapes everywhere, even in your dreams. Psychologists use the term for any repetitive task that imprints on the mind. It's harmless, though slightly unsettling, like having your thoughts stuck in replay mode. Gatekeeping describes how information gets filtered before reaching the public. Journalists, editors, and even algorithms decide what gets published or ignored. The idea dates back to mid-20th century communication studies, but today it also applies to social media feeds. In a sense, every trending topic has already passed through invisible gates. Silver tarnish might look like rust, but chemistry tells a different story. The metal reacts not with oxygen, but with tiny traces of sulfur in the air. Over time, it forms black silver sulfide, that dull coating you see on old jewelry or utensils. A gentle polish reverses it, restoring the bright, mirror-like shine. The Galenic system of medicine dominated Europe for over 13 centuries. Based on the teachings of the Roman physician Galen, it proposed that health depended on balancing four bodily humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Treatments like bloodletting and herbal tonics aimed to restore harmony centuries before modern biology arrived. The wolf bone, discovered in 1937 in Vestanis, what is now the Czech Republic, is one of the oldest known artifacts linked to early counting. Marked with a series of carved notches, it may have been used to track days or hunts. It's a small piece of bone, but possibly humanity's first calendar. Trial by ordeal was a medieval way of letting fate decide guilt. Accused persons might hold a red-hot iron, plunge their hand into boiling water, or be thrown into a river. If they survived unharmed, they were deemed innocent. It sounds barbaric now, but at the time, divine intervention was considered the ultimate judge. The Milgram experiment, conducted in the early 1960s, tested how far people would go in obeying authority. Volunteers thought they were shocking others for wrong answers, while an experimenter urged them to continue. Many did, even when they believed they were causing pain. It revealed how obedience can override conscience. Fundamental interactions are nature's basic forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Everything in the universe, from falling apples to atomic decay, can be traced to these four. Scientists have tried linking them into one grand theory of everything, but so far the universe keeps some secrets. Spheres of influence describe how powerful nations extend control without direct rule. During the 19th century, for example, European empires carved up Asia and Africa into informal zones of economic or political dominance. It's like drawing invisible borders of power. Influence without ownership, but just as consequential. The chronology protection conjecture is a theory proposed by physicist Stephen Hawking, suggesting that nature forbids time travel. The idea is that the laws of physics somehow prevent closed time loops from forming. In essence, it's the universe's way of saying no paradoxes allowed. Convenient, and maybe merciful. The Battle of Agincourt, fought on October 25, 1415, was one of England's most famous victories in the 100 Years' War. King Henry V's army, vastly outnumbered, used muddy terrain and longbowmen to devastating effect. The French suffered enormous losses, and the English triumph became legend, even immortalized by Shakespeare. The Raman effect, discovered by Indian physicist C.V. Raman in 1928, occurs when light scatters off molecules and changes energy slightly. This shift reveals the molecule's structure, like a spectral fingerprint. The discovery earned Raman a Nobel Prize and opened the door to techniques that scientists still use to study materials today. Dixon's Q-test is a simple but handy statistical tool used to spot outliers in small datasets. Imagine you've measured something 5 times and one number looks suspiciously off. This test helps decide if it's genuinely different or just random variation. Developed by W.J. Dixon in the mid-20th century, it keeps data analysis clean and fair. The Library of Babel is a short story by Jorge Luis Borges that imagines an infinite library containing every possible 410-page book. Most are gibberish, but somewhere inside lies every truth, lie, and variation of human thought. It's both fascinating and terrifying, a metaphor for infinity, randomness, and our endless search for meaning. Pinnacle Point is a rocky headland on South Africa's southern coast, overlooking the Indian Ocean. Archaeologists have found evidence there of early humans using fire, collecting shellfish, and crafting tools around 164,000 years ago. It's one of the earliest known sites showing coastal living, proof that our ancestors already understood the sea's resources. The Cyrillic script, which today serves languages like Russian and Bulgarian, was created in the 10th century in the First Bulgarian Empire. Scholars at the Preslav Literary School developed it to spread Christian texts in the local Slavic tongue. Over time, it evolved into dozens of alphabets, shaping written culture across Eastern Europe and beyond. The Strange Situation was a groundbreaking experiment by psychologist Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s. It observed how young children reacted when briefly separated from and reunited with their caregivers. The study revealed different attachment styles, from secure to anxious or avoidant, and helped define modern understanding of emotional bonds in early life. The American Civil War, fought from 1861 to 1865, divided the United States between the Union and the Confederacy. The conflict centered on slavery and states' rights, leaving over 600,000 dead. It ended with the Union's victory and the abolition of slavery, reshaping the nation's laws, economy, and moral foundation. Bucharest, Romania's capital, blends old-world charm with modern bustle. Its broad boulevards and Belle Epoque architecture once earned it the nickname Little Paris. Though much was damaged during wars and earthquakes, landmarks like the Palace of the Parliament and the historic Lipskenny district still echo centuries of cultural resilience. In microbiology, quorum sensing is how bacteria talk to each other. Through tiny chemical signals, they detect population density and coordinate collective actions, like forming biofilms or releasing toxins. It's essentially microbial teamwork. Once enough cells agree, they act together, showing that even single-celled organisms thrive on communication. The pitch drop experiment is science's slowest spectacle. Started in 1927 at the University of Queensland, it tracks how a lump of tar, which looks solid, slowly drips through a funnel. In nearly a century, only 10 drops have fallen. It's a quiet but powerful lesson in patience and the hidden flow of matter. Taekwondo, born in Korea, is a martial art that looks like choreography in motion. It emphasizes high spinning and jumping kicks, fast, precise, and powerful. Developed in the mid-20th century from older Korean and Japanese styles, it's now an Olympic sport that mixes discipline, balance, and explosive athleticism. A petroglyph is ancient art carved directly into rock. Early humans used tools to chip or scratch figures, animals, symbols, or scenes onto stone surfaces. Found across continents, from North America to Australia, they form one of humanity's earliest storytelling mediums, a permanent record etched into the planet itself. The Khmer script, used for Cambodia's national language, has one of the world's longest alphabets, 74 characters in total. Developed from ancient Brahmi scripts of India, it includes consonants, vowels, and intricate diacritics. Its ornate curves make it both visually striking and complex to master, a blend of language and artistry. The Peace of Westphalia, signed in 1648, ended Europe's devastating 30 Years' War. The treaties not only brought peace, but also introduced the modern idea of national sovereignty, that each state governs itself without external interference. It quietly reshaped global politics, laying the groundwork for today's system of independent nations. The ecliptic is the flat plane of Earth's orbit around the Sun, and the path the Sun appears to trace across our sky. Most planets orbit close to this same plane, which is why they seem to follow similar paths in the night sky. Astronomers use it as a cosmic reference line for mapping the heavens. A dead-hand provision in a will lets someone control property long after death, sometimes for generations. It might dictate who inherits, when, or under what conditions. While legal, such clauses can be controversial, as they let the deceased influence the living, a bit like ghostly micromanagement through paperwork. The spice trade of the 17th century was so valuable that entire empires gambled over nutmeg and cloves. In 1667, the Dutch even traded the island of Manhattan to the English for Run, a tiny island rich in nutmeg. For a time, that little speck of land was worth more than New York itself. In the 16th century, Emperor Rudolph II of the Holy Roman Empire filled his Prague palace with wonders, a cabinet of curiosities. It held paintings, animal specimens, mechanical inventions, and even alchemical tools. Part museum, part laboratory. It mirrored the Renaissance spirit, where art, science, and magic blurred into one pursuit of knowledge. The Battle of Cannae in 216 BCE remains one of history's greatest tactical victories. Carthaginian General Hannibal surrounded a much larger Roman army in southern Italy, annihilating it through clever maneuvers. His double envelopment strategy is still studied in military academies today as the textbook example of battlefield brilliance. The Kardashev scale measures a civilization's technological progress by how much energy it can harness. Type 1. Civilizations use all energy available on their planet. Type 2. Capture their star's power. And Type 3. Control energy on a galactic scale. Humanity, for reference, isn't even a full Type 1 yet. Ljubljana, Slovenia's capital, feels like a fairy tale city. Its leafy riverbanks, green spaces, and dragon-themed bridges make it uniquely charming. The Ljubljanica River winds through Baroque and modernist architecture, giving the city both elegance and warmth. It's small but deeply livable, a hidden gem in the heart of Europe. The Cobra effect describes when a solution backfires spectacularly. The name comes from colonial India, where authorities offered rewards for every dead cobra. People began breeding cobras to collect bounties, and when the policy ended, they released them, increasing the problem. It's a classic case of good intentions gone wrong. In 1984, the city of Bhopal in India faced one of the darkest nights in industrial history. A pesticide plant leaked methyl isocyanate gas into the air, killing thousands within hours and injuring many more. The invisible cloud spread through the sleeping city, making the Bhopal disaster the world's worst industrial accident and a lasting reminder of corporate negligence. The Stanford prison experiment in 1971 wasn't a movie, it was real psychology. Philip Zimbardo created a mock prison with college students playing guards and prisoners. Within days, the guards became cruel, and the prisoners broke down emotionally. It showed just how easily ordinary people can abuse power when given authority, even in a fake setting. Arson isn't just about lighting a fire, it's about intent. It's the deliberate act of setting property on fire, often for revenge, insurance money, or destruction. From medieval laws to modern forensics, arson has always been treated as a serious crime because it doesn't just destroy things. It endangers lives, communities, and history itself. Occam's razor is like the keep it simple rule for science and logic. It says that when two explanations fit the facts, the simpler one is usually better. Astronomers, doctors, and detectives all use it. Because while wild theories sound fun, truth usually hides in the least complicated answer. Forensic soil analysis sounds boring until you realize dirt can solve crimes. Every patch of ground has a unique mix of minerals, microbes, and even pollen. Investigators can match soil on a shoe or tire to a specific place, almost like a fingerprint from the earth itself, tiny grains that tell huge stories. A kermit is what happens when ceramics and metals join forces. The ceramic gives hardness and heat resistance, while the metal adds toughness and flexibility. You'll find cermets in jet engines, armor, and even dental tools. It's basically teamwork at the atomic level, where opposites make something stronger together. Far beyond Neptune lies the Kuiper Belt, a massive ring of icy bodies orbiting the Sun. It's home to dwarf planets like Pluto and Eris, leftovers from the solar system's formation. Think of it as a cosmic attic, storing the ancient frozen remains of our solar neighborhood for billions of years. Hofstadter's law is the universe's way of saying, "You're not as fast as you think." It claims that every task takes longer than expected, even when you account for that delay. Created by Douglas Hofstadter, it's a clever reminder that time underestimation isn't a bug in human planning, it's practically a feature. The uses and gratifications theory flips the script on how we see media. Instead of media controlling us, it says people actively choose what they watch, read, or play to meet their needs, like entertainment, information, or connection. It's why someone might pick a horror movie after a bad day. Sometimes fear feels oddly satisfying. Intercall, invented in 1972, might be the weirdest programming language ever. It was designed as a parody, making coding intentionally painful. To get a program to run, you literally had to type, "please." It's a joke wrapped in syntax, a reminder that even programmers have a sense of humor, sometimes a very dark one. A quasi-crystal looks ordered like a crystal, but never quite repeats itself. Imagine tiles arranged in a perfect pattern that never loops. It's both beautiful and mathematically strange. Discovered in 1982, quasi-crystals blur the line between chaos and order, proving nature doesn't always follow our neat geometric rules. A tachyon is a particle that physics textbooks whisper about, but have never seen. It's hypothetical, said to always move faster than light. If it existed, it would break causality. Events could happen before their causes. That's not just confusing. It's the kind of thing that makes physicists sigh and reach for more coffee. The crystal system is how scientists organize all the ways atoms can arrange themselves in solids. From cubes to hexagons, there are 7 main systems, like architectural blueprints for matter. Whether it's salt crystals, quartz, or diamonds, their beauty and strength depend entirely on this invisible geometry. The Hartle-Hawking state sounds mysterious because it is. Proposed by physicists James Hartle and Stephen Hawking, it suggests that before the Big Bang, time itself didn't exist. There was no before. The universe simply emerged smoothly, like a hill rolling into a valley without a sharp beginning or a creator's spark. The 100 Years' War wasn't just one endless battle. It was a tangled series of conflicts between England and France from 1337 to 1453. It birthed legends like Joan of Arc, reshaped medieval Europe, and proved that crowns and borders could cost generations of blood and loyalty. The Sacre-Tetrode equation sounds like a tongue twister, but it's actually physics poetry. It calculates the entropy, or disorder, of an ideal gas made of single atoms. By blending thermodynamics and quantum theory, it gives numbers to chaos itself, turning randomness into something you can measure. Onomatopoeia is when language imitates sound, like buzz, crash, or sizzle. It's how words echo life. Ancient poets loved them. Comic books still rely on them. And even animals understand tone over meaning. It's language doing its best impression of the world it describes. The Sino-Indian War of 1962 was short but fierce. Fought high in the freezing Himalayas, it pitted China against India over disputed borders. Soldiers battled at altitudes where oxygen was scarce and survival was as tough as the terrain itself, a reminder that geography often shapes history. The Meissner effect is what makes superconductors seem like magic. When certain materials cool to near absolute zero, they expel magnetic fields completely. That's why magnets can float above them, locked in invisible balance. It's physics showing off its party tricks in the lab. Every summer, the River Thames hosts one of Britain's most curious traditions: swan upping. The monarch's swan marker and his team row up the river counting and tagging swans. It's part wildlife census, part royal ceremony, and entirely unique, proof that even bird counting can wear a crown. Gibbs's phase rule is like a mathematical recipe for matter. It tells you how many things you can change in a system, like temperature or pressure, before it stops being stable. It's the quiet law behind everything from boiling water to steelmaking, keeping chaos in scientific check. The Klazies River Caves in South Africa are like a diary written in stone. Inside, archaeologists found some of the earliest evidence of modern humans. Tools, bones, and traces of ancient fires. Dating back more than 100,000 years, they tell stories of people who shaped the world long before history began. Phantom energy sounds like science fiction, but it's real cosmological speculation. It's a form of dark energy so intense it could eventually tear the universe apart, stretching galaxies until atoms themselves rip. If it exists, the cosmos has a built-in expiration date, a quiet, unstoppable unraveling. Quantum foam is what physicists think space-time looks like up close: wild, restless, and bubbling with energy. At unimaginably tiny scales, space isn't smooth, but constantly fluctuating. It's as if the universe itself fizzes like soda even when it seems perfectly still. A sand battery is exactly what it sounds like, a giant thermal battery made of sand. Heated by electricity, it stores energy for months as warmth, ready to power buildings in winter. It's low cost, sustainable, and surprisingly effective, like turning a beach into a giant thermos. The Tadjart Akakis Mountains in Libya look like Mars, but tell Earth's ancient story. Covered in rock art dating back thousands of years, the region once had rivers and animals. Today, it's desert, but its walls still whisper about the time when the Sahara was green. Tokipona isn't just a language, it's a philosophy. Created in 2001, it uses barely 100 root words to express everything. It forces speakers to simplify thoughts, seeing life through clarity instead of complexity. It's minimalism turned linguistic, where fewer words mean deeper meaning. The framing effect shows how our choices depend on wording. Say a treatment saves 90% of patients, and people cheer. But say it kills 10% and fear takes over. The facts don't change, just the frame. Our minds, it seems, edit reality like overzealous film directors. In ancient Greece, a stoa was a long, shaded walkway where people gathered to talk, trade, or think. Philosophers like Zeno taught there, giving rise to Stoicism. It was part marketplace, part classroom, and proof that some of history's biggest ideas started under a simple roof. The Ge'ez script from Ethiopia and Eritrea looks like art, but functions with precision. Each symbol represents a consonant-vowel pair, making it an abugida. It's been used for centuries in liturgy, history, and daily life, a script that bridges sound, faith, and identity. In superconductivity, the proximity effect happens when a superconductor touches a normal material, and some of its super properties leak over. It's like a chill friend calming everyone nearby. Electrons in the non-superconductor start pairing up slightly too. This boundary behavior helps scientists design advanced circuits and quantum devices that mix both materials seamlessly. The casket letters were a set of 8 letters and a few sonnets said to be written by Mary, Queen of Scots, in the 1500s. They allegedly revealed her involvement in her husband's murder. Whether real or forged, they became political weapons, words powerful enough to decide a queen's fate. A script isn't just words on paper, it's a mental plan for behavior. It's what makes you automatically greet someone with hi or sit facing the front in class. Psychologists use scripts to explain how we act out familiar social routines, like actors following lines we've rehearsed since childhood. The structure factor sounds abstract, but it's the key to seeing how atoms are arranged. When scientists shine X-rays or electrons on a crystal, this mathematical pattern shows how waves scatter. From it, we can build detailed 3D models of materials, turning invisible atoms into visible structures. Aboriginal rock art in Australia is more than ancient decoration. It's storytelling in stone. Created over tens of thousands of years, these paintings and carvings show hunting scenes, spirits, and maps of the land. They connect generations, keeping history, spirituality, and landscape bound together in color and rock. A boustrophodon is writing that zigzags like a plowing ox. One line runs left to right, the next right to left. Ancient Greek inscriptions often used it to save space on stone. Reading it feels like tracing a maze, a rare moment when writing literally takes a turn. Dramatism, created by Kenneth Burke, views human life as theater. It suggests every action, every argument, speech, or apology has a scene, actors, motives, and purpose. By analyzing life as drama, it turns communication into a script where meaning depends on the roles we play. The Ginzburg-Landau theory explains superconductivity with elegant math. It treats the phenomenon like a smooth transition, similar to water freezing into ice, where electrons move in perfect harmony. Though simplified, this theory bridges microscopic physics and large-scale behavior, making the invisible flow of zero-resistance current understandable. Between 1400 and 1700, English pronunciation went through the Great Vowel Shift, a massive linguistic makeover. Words like bite and meat once sounded like beat and mate. It's why English spelling feels chaotic today. Our letters froze while our voices evolved. Magnonics sounds futuristic, and it is. It studies waves that travel through a material's magnetic spins instead of electric current. These spin waves could one day power ultra-efficient computers, carrying information with almost no energy loss, like Wi-Fi made of magnetism. Ullage is that little empty space you see in a wine bottle or fuel tank. It's not laziness, it's science. Liquids expand when heated, so the gap prevents bursting or spillage. In wine, ullage even signals age, as evaporation slowly changes the drink's flavor over time. Uruk, an ancient Mesopotamian city, might have invented mass production of bowls. Around 3300 BCE, workers received rations in identical beveled-rim clay bowls, made by the thousands. These humble containers mark one of humanity's earliest steps toward organized economies and mass industry. The Xhosa language clicks are a marvel of sound. These clicks, called post-alveolar clicks, are made by pressing the tongue against the upper gum ridge. They create sharp, rhythmic tones that shape entire words, turning conversation into something that feels half speech, half percussion. Samarkand in Uzbekistan once shone as a jewel of the Silk Road. Merchants traded silk, spices, and stories there, but its prized export was paper, so fine that scholars across the Islamic world sought it. Its legacy still lingers in the blue domes and intricate mosaics that line its streets. Mise en abîme is art folding in on itself, an image inside an image. Think of a painting showing another painting, or a movie showing someone watching a movie. It's visual recursion, turning art into a hall of mirrors where meaning deepens the longer you look. The Great Recoinage of 1696 was England's massive coin cleanup. Silver coins had been clipped and counterfeited so badly that Isaac Newton, then master of the mint, stepped in. Using precise weights and new milling techniques, he restored trust in money and helped shape modern currency standards. Haptic technology brings touch to machines. The buzz in your phone or controller comes from tiny rotating motors that mimic real sensations. From virtual surgery tools to gaming gloves, haptics bridges digital and physical worlds, letting us feel code as vibration and motion. Sumptuary laws in Renaissance Italy told people what they could wear or own based on class. Gold embroidery, silk, or certain foods were privileges of the elite. It wasn't just fashion policing. It was a social hierarchy stitched directly into fabric and furniture. The Truce of God was the medieval church's attempt to calm constant feudal warfare. It banned fighting on holy days and seasons like Lent. For centuries, it forced knights to pause their battles, proving even power-hungry nobles had to answer to divine scheduling. Spintronics takes electronics to a new level by using the electron's spin as well as its charge. It's how some modern memory devices work. Tiny magnetic twists instead of moving currents. Faster, smaller, and cooler, spintronics might drive the next generation of computing. Pyrite, known as fool's gold, can grow into perfect golden cubes entirely on its own. No carving, no polishing, just nature's geometry at work. Found in mines and rock layers worldwide, its metallic shimmer has tricked countless treasure hunters for centuries. The von Neumann-Morgenstern utility theorem sounds intimidating, but it's about decision-making under risk. It says rational people choose the option that maximizes their expected utility, not just profit. In other words, we gamble not for gain alone, but for how that gain feels. Mathematics meeting human psychology. The availability heuristic is like the brain's shortcut button. When we make decisions, instead of digging for all the data, we just grab the first example that pops into our head. If you recently heard about a plane crash, you might think flying is dangerous, even though it's statistically safer than driving. Our brains love what's easy to recall, not what's accurate. The straw man argument is when someone pretends to defeat an opponent's point, but they've secretly changed it first. It's like arguing with a scarecrow version of the real idea. Instead of debating what was actually said, they simplify or twist it, knock it down, and act like they've won. It's easy, dramatic, and completely misleading. The Z-pinch is a way to trap plasma, the same stuff stars are made of, using electricity alone. When an electric current runs through plasma, it creates a magnetic field that squeezes it inward, like an invisible fist. Scientists study this for fusion energy, because if we can control plasma this way, we could mimic the power of the sun on Earth. The Allais paradox, created by Maurice Allais in 1953, shows how people often make choices that don't follow logic. When faced with gambling-style options, people pick what feels right, not what maximizes their gain. It's a reminder that even with math and probability on the table, human intuition often plays by its own rules. Agreeable is one of those tiny details added to spaceship models in sci-fi movies that make them look realistic. Think of the bumps and ridges on the Death Star. They don't do anything, but they make it look complex. The trick works because the human eye loves patterns and clutter that suggest technology, even when it's just decoration. Conway's law says that the way a team communicates shapes what they build. If an organization is divided into 4 departments, it'll probably make a product with 4 main parts. It's a funny truth in tech. Your app, your website, or even your space rocket often ends up reflecting how your team talks behind the scenes. Japan's Icy Grand Shrine has a tradition unlike any other. It's completely rebuilt every 20 years. This Shinto ritual, called Shikinen Sengu, has been going on for over 1,300 years. The idea isn't to preserve old wood, but to preserve skill and spirit, passing craftsmanship from one generation to the next like a living memory. A holler is a poetic trick, where 2 whole lines sound exactly the same but mean different things. It's like hearing an echo that changes meaning on reflection, because it demands perfect rhythm and double interpretation. Poets rarely pull it off, but when they do, it's linguistic magic, hiding in plain sound. An alloy is what you get when you mix metals to create something stronger or more useful. Bronze, for example, is copper plus tin, an ancient recipe that gave early civilizations tougher tools and weapons. Today, alloys make up everything from airplane wings to guitar strings, proving that teamwork works even in metals. The Boxer Rebellion was a violent uprising in China between 1899 and 1901, aimed at pushing out foreign powers and missionaries. The Boxers, named for their martial arts, believed they could resist bullets through spiritual strength. It ended brutally, but it showed China's deep frustration with colonial influence and cultural invasion. The zone of avoidance is a part of the sky astronomers can't fully see, because our own Milky Way gets in the way. Dust, stars, and gas clouds block telescopes from viewing what's behind it. It's like trying to spot something across a smoky concert hall. The universe hides a few secrets right behind our own stage lights. The Vlasov equation describes how a plasma, a cloud of charged particles, moves and changes over time without collisions. It's used in space physics to model things like solar winds and magnetic storms. Imagine tracking the flow of invisible rivers of energy around planets. This equation is what helps scientists do exactly that. M-theory is physics' ambitious attempt to tie together all 5 versions of string theory. It suggests that everything in the universe, from atoms to galaxies, is made of tiny vibrating strings. And even more strangely, that there are 11 dimensions. It's a grand unifying dream, though it's still more math than experiment for now. A stacking fault happens when the atomic layers in a crystal slip out of order. Think of a neatly stacked deck of cards where one layer shifts slightly. Suddenly, the whole structure isn't perfect anymore. These tiny misalignments affect how metals bend, break, and even conduct electricity on a microscopic scale. The bristles of a plastic broom are often flagged. Their tips are split into tiny strands. It's not damage, it's design. Those little splits grab dust and crumbs more efficiently by increasing surface area. It's the same idea as using a fine brush instead of a thick one. More contact, cleaner sweep, less effort. Berlow's SMCR model breaks communication into 4 parts: source, message, channel, and receiver. The source sends an idea. The message carries it. The channel delivers it, like sound or text, and the receiver decodes it. It's simple, but powerful, showing how even a text or tweet is a full mini communication system. Barnlund's transactional model views communication as a 2-way dance instead of a 1-way street. The sender and receiver keep switching roles, constantly giving feedback through words, tone, or even silence. It's how real conversations work, messy, circular, and always changing depending on how each person responds. Wadras Prison in Barcelona is one of the few all-female prisons in Europe with a progressive design. It includes nurseries and spaces where mothers can raise their babies while serving time. Rather than just punishment, it focuses on rehabilitation and human dignity, a rare approach in the world of incarceration. Causal dynamical triangulation is a theory that tries to describe space-time as a collection of tiny triangles stitched together. Instead of assuming space already exists, it builds it piece by piece, like assembling a cosmic quilt. It's one of the few ways physicists are trying to make quantum gravity make mathematical sense. The Paleo-Hebrew alphabet was the ancient script used by the Israelites before the Babylonian exile. Afterward, it was mostly replaced by the Aramaic-based square script used in modern Hebrew today. Seeing both side by side is like comparing old cursive handwriting to digital text. Same language, different look through history. The Chandrasekhar limit is the maximum mass, about 1.4 times that of the Sun, that a white dwarf star can have before collapsing. Beyond that point, gravity wins, and the star can explode as a supernova or form a neutron star. It's the universe's built-in weight limit for dying stars. A quantum dot is a crystal so small it acts like an atom. Made from semiconductors, these nanocrystals trap electrons and emit vivid colors when light hits them. They're used in TVS, medical imaging, and solar cells, and they shine with such precision that a change of just a few atoms can shift their entire color. A self-fulfilling prophecy happens when believing something makes it come true. If a teacher expects a student to succeed, they might give extra encouragement, and the student, feeling confident, performs better. It's like a loop between thought and reality, where expectation quietly shapes outcome without anyone noticing. Minkowski's space combines space and time into a single four-dimensional structure. In this model, events aren't just where they happen, but also when. It's the backbone of Einstein's relativity, showing that time can stretch or shrink depending on motion, like a flexible fabric holding the universe together. Social constructionism is the idea that much of what we call reality is built through shared belief. Money, nations, even gender roles exist because people agree they do. It's not saying reality is fake, it's saying meaning comes from collective understanding. The world, in this view, is part physical, part conversation. The Wars of the Roses were a brutal series of civil wars in 15th century England between two rival branches of the royal family, the Red Rose of Lancaster and the White Rose of York. They fought for control of the English throne, leading to decades of chaos, betrayal, and shifting power until the conflict ended with the rise of the Tudor dynasty. Syracuse is a historic coastal city on the island of Sicily, once one of the most powerful cities in the ancient Mediterranean. It was home to the famous mathematician Archimedes and has Greek temples, Roman amphitheaters, and medieval streets all layered together. Walking through it feels like traveling through 3,000 years of history in one afternoon. The third-person effect is a funny quirk of human psychology. It says we tend to think media messages, like ads or propaganda, affect other people more than they affect us. For example, we assume we're too smart for political manipulation, but everyone else might fall for it. It's a quiet illusion that makes us feel just a bit immune to influence. The full Windsor knot, that neat triangular tie knot often seen at formal events, isn't actually the invention of the Duke of Windsor. He just liked his ties thick and symmetrical, so tailors made them that way. The knot was named in his honor later, which means the most famous tie style in the world came from imitation, not innovation. The Booba Kiki effect shows that even nonsense words feel meaningful to us. When people hear Booba, they imagine something round and soft. Kiki, on the other hand, feels sharp and spiky. It's the same across cultures and languages, suggesting our brains naturally link sound and shape, almost as if words carry built-in emotions. Was one of the great Sumerian city-states of ancient Mesopotamia, located in what's now southern Iraq. It thrived around 4,000 years ago, complete with temples, ziggurats, and royal tombs. Archaeologists even found the Standard of a stunning mosaic showing scenes of war and peace, offering a rare glimpse into early urban civilization. Work hardening happens when a metal becomes stronger, the more it's bent or hammered. Each time it's deformed, the metal's internal crystal structure shifts, locking the atoms more tightly together. That's why blacksmiths could strengthen iron by repeated hammering, an ancient discovery that still underlies modern metalworking and engineering. The 30 Years' War raged across Central Europe from 1618 to 1648, beginning as a fight between Catholics and Protestants, but quickly turning into a political free-for-all. Entire regions were devastated, with millions dead from battle, famine, and disease. By the time it ended, Europe had changed forever, religiously, politically, and even demographically. The Cape Gauge, measuring 1,067 millimeters, is a type of narrow railway track used across Africa, Japan, and parts of Australia. It's slightly tighter than standard gauge, which makes it cheaper to build in rough terrain. Despite its limitations in speed, its durability and cost efficiency made it the practical choice for colonial-era railroads. Time reversal symmetry is a fascinating idea in physics. The notion that if you played the universe backward, the fundamental laws would still make sense. At the atomic level, particles can behave the same whether time moves forward or backward. It's like watching a pool game in reverse. The collisions still follow the same rules, just backward. The Barnum effect, also called the Forer effect, is what makes vague statements feel deeply personal. When someone reads a horoscope that says, "You value honesty but sometimes feel misunderstood," it feels tailor-made, even though it could fit anyone. It's named after showman P.T. Barnum, who famously said there's a little something for everyone. For decades, scientists were puzzled by an underwater sound called the bioduck, recorded near Antarctica. It was rhythmic, mechanical, and utterly mysterious until 2014, when researchers finally identified it as the call of the Antarctic minke whale. What sounded like a submarine's hum turned out to be one of nature's strangest songs. The Eltanin antenna was an odd object photographed on the seafloor in 1964 by the research ship Eltanin. It looked like a metal antenna sticking out of the mud, sparking theories about alien probes. Decades later, scientists identified it as a type of carnivorous sponge, a perfect example of how mystery often meets science halfway. The Curse of the Pharaohs became a worldwide obsession after Howard Carter discovered Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. When a few expedition members died unexpectedly, rumors spread of an ancient curse. But statistical studies later showed no unusual deaths at all. It was pure coincidence wrapped in a perfect media myth. The Devshirme was an Ottoman system that recruited young Christian boys from the Balkans. They were converted to Islam, trained as soldiers or administrators, and could rise to great power, some even becoming grand viziers. It was both brutal and strangely merit-based, turning captured boys into some of the empire's most elite men. Scagliola is a centuries-old art of faking marble, using plaster, pigments, and glue. Italian craftsmen mastered it during the Renaissance, creating tabletops and columns that looked exactly like real stone. It's cheaper and more flexible than marble, but just as elegant. A kind of architectural illusion perfected long before modern composites. The Black Knight satellite is a popular conspiracy theory, claiming that an alien spacecraft has orbited Earth for thousands of years. The evidence comes from a misidentified piece of space debris photographed in 1960. Despite countless debunks, it remains a favorite story for those who love mixing science with mystery. The Great Unconformity is one of geology's strangest gaps, a missing slice of Earth's history ranging from 100 million to a billion years. In the Grand Canyon and elsewhere, younger rocks sit directly atop ancient ones. With all that middle time gone, scientists still debate what erased it: erosion, ice, or something else entirely. A non-Newtonian fluid is a liquid that breaks the rules of normal flow. Ketchup, for instance, stays thick until you shake or squeeze it. Then it suddenly runs. The same goes for cornstarch and water mixtures, which can act like a solid when hit. These fluids remind us that not all liquids play by Newton's laws. The Battle of Thermopylae in 480 BCE saw King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans hold off a massive Persian army led by Xerxes I. Though they were eventually defeated, their stand became legendary for its courage and strategy. The narrow pass of Thermopylae made sheer bravery count more than numbers. The Paris Agreement's 1.5 degrees Celsius goal isn't arbitrary. It's based on avoiding major climate tipping points. Beyond that threshold, the Greenland ice sheet could collapse. Coral reefs could vanish, and weather systems could spiral out of control. The limit acts as a line between difficult climate change and potentially irreversible damage. The outgroup homogeneity effect describes how we tend to see people outside our own group as all the same. For example, someone might say, all teenagers act alike, or all politicians are the same. It's a mental shortcut that simplifies the world, but at the cost of empathy and accuracy. Alexandria, founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, became one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. It housed the legendary Library of Alexandria, a beacon of ancient knowledge. Today, it's still Egypt's main port, a blend of Greek heritage, Egyptian culture, and modern life, sitting right by the Mediterranean. The Auger effect occurs when an atom with an empty inner electron shell fills that gap by kicking out another electron instead of releasing light. It's like a game of musical chairs at the atomic level. One electron takes a seat, and another gets pushed out. This process helps scientists study atomic structure and X-ray emissions. And that's it for today's set of fascinating facts. If you enjoyed learning something new, stick around. There's always more where that came from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.